prison. Heck yes, everyone. Welcome back to another Shakedown Crash Course. And today, we're talking about prison food. I know we touched on it a little bit last time on our episode about commissary, but now let's talk about how inmates eat in prison. Last time for commissary, I gave this big, I tried to give an analogy of what the store would be like if the grocery store was like commissary. I can't even begin to do that with how meals work in prison. In Texas, because I can't do this for every prison, the difference between state to state and between state and federal prisons, they're all going to be different. They all have differences. I remember reading Orange is the New Black while being locked up, and then seeing that federal prisons have a salad bar and being so pissed off. The tone of the TV show of Orange is the New Black is kind of complaining and about, oh, woe is me, how hard is this life? And then to find out they had salad bars, oh man. The reason that pissed me off so much is because in Texas, I think I went 2 years before I actually had a raw vegetable. It was I remember when I had a canned olive for the first time in prison. That was part of a holiday meal. I had that. I did not like olives at the time, but I ate it. From then on, I loved olives. Totally changed my world. Still don't like them on pizza, but I do like me an olive now. But let's go back into this. The whole point of meals in prison, and I'll talk to you about Texas prisons. So if you're thinking breakfast, mealtime, if you're thinking, I'm going to have breakfast, and I say, well, in prison, breakfast is a little early. What time are you thinking? Maybe 6 a.m.? Maybe he's being a little facetious, all right? And he's saying, oh, it's really early, 5 a.m. What about 2 a.m.? Now, granted, it was more 4 a.m. on a lot of days. Its range was from 2 to 4 a.m. A lot of times, I would say 3:30 was about probably the average time. But yeah, if you wanted breakfast, you best get yourself in bed. Or, flip side, just stay up all night. But if you have a job to work the next day, you're out of there. Yeah, so your first meal of the day was super absurdly or early in the morning. As in so early that after you eat it, you're going back to sleep. Why was this? I don't think anyone actually knew, but I think the real reason was that officers worked shifts, and they had certain shifts. And I want to say that, yeah, they were 8-hour shifts. So each one had an 8-hour shift, which breaks down into 3 shifts per day. The thing is one started at 8, and then one got done. Let's see. Now I got to do the math on this. You have 8 till 4, and then 4 till midnight, and then midnight till 8 every day. So they wanted each shift was going to have a meal. So if you're going to have a meal during that midnight to 8 shift, it wasn't going to be at 7 because the shift is wrapping up. They're getting ready to leave at 7. Well, so there's a first. The entire computer crashed mid-sentence while recording. That's fun. Yeah, maybe why I shouldn't record a whole bunch of these all at once. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. You wouldn't feed inmates at 7. It's a long process. Depending on how big your unit is, it takes hours to go through and feed. And then after you feed everyone on the unit, you have to do a count. So you would be amazed at how much of a day on a prison is made up purely of counting the inmates. When you do a count, everything stops, all right? All inmate movement stops. Everyone freezes where they are, and then the officers, as they say, just sit there and count one by one all of the inmates to make sure they are all accounted for. Okay? So before you start a meal, they do a count. After they finish a meal, they do a count. Then they'll do something else, do a count, do a count, do a count, do a count, do a count. Anyway, this is why you would never have a meal right towards the end of the shift. If you've got a meal that takes at least 3 hours, and like I said, could be much longer on a much larger unit. I was never on a very big unit. I was only on like medium to small units. So it never took too long. But yeah, when they're feeding, it's you start with a count, then end with a count, and then you wrap it up. And then usually during a shift change usually happens during the count. So they're going to have another count on top of it for shift change, so they can shut everything down, and then the new shift has to count and then make sure everybody's in place so that nothing happened in between the shifts. So lots of counting happening in between shifts, plus a meal. So they're going to move the meal up way away from that 8 o'clock time, so they have plenty of time to do their counts and whatever else they need to do. So, and also, who do you think feeds the inmates? The inmates feed the inmates. They got to get the kitchen crew out of the kitchen and get them back into their housing assignments before they do that count after breakfast. So they have to do all of this before that wrap-up count and make sure that they're accounted for and all of that stuff before all of these other counts that are about to happen. So the breakfast probably needs to be early, and then that pushes up lunch, which might, once again, lunch can honestly range anywhere from like 10 till noon or later, depending on all sorts of situations. If there could be an emergency on one of the wings, and then that will shut everything down, and there is not going to be any movement for lunch, for meals, for anything during that time. So you don't know when the meals for the rest of the day are, which brings us to another fun story. The way meals work is, well, they need to get you, so they're going to send you in groups to go eat, and you need to be ready. So basically the inmates need to be ready to go out the door at a certain time. They can't send an entire cell block to go eat all at once. That's going to be too much traffic going down the hallways. It's too many. I don't know. I honestly don't know why they can't just do it. Just send the whole cell block down the hallway or whatever. But they're not going to. They're only going to send 25 inmates at a time out the door. When they open up the chow hall, they will call time for chow. If you're in a cell block with a cell door that locks, they'll let all the inmates out of their cell doors and into the day room for chow. And then they just got to sit and wait. If you're reading a book or whatever, you can't bring that with you, because if you leave it out during chow, there's a good chance the officer is just going to take it. So, there's ways you can work around this too. But yeah, everyone's going to be sitting out waiting for chow. And let's say there's a fight or a riot or something happens, which happens all the time. You might be sitting there in that day room for hours, just sitting there doing nothing and just waiting to go eat. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they'll say 25 for chow, and it is a bum rush for that door to get out the door, because once again, it's like commissary too. You don't know when the next time they're going to call that door. Sometimes, too, they'll forget how many they sent and then go right on to the next dorm and start calling for chow. And then you're going to have to wait till everyone gets done, and then they'll then get sent in the last bunch. It's a mess. If you haven't noticed already with this kind of with with these crash courses, especially revolving food, there's a lot of food insecurity happening. You don't know when your next meal is going to happen. It may happen when you're asleep. It might happen, and then you don't know if you're going to be able to afford it. You don't know if you're going to be able to get called to go down to the store to buy your next meal. You don't know if you're going to be able to go to, make it out the door, out to the place that is supposed to feed you. You don't know. These are not guarantees in prison, all right? Like, everyone's like, oh, 3 hots and a cot. Not guaranteed. None of this is guaranteed. Trust me, they would happily not feed you and not house you in prison, all right? They really don't care, especially, well, and maybe this will be another episode, is like, they're not trained to trust you or give you any sort of the benefit of the doubt. It's just about, they know they're supposed to finish up the call for chow and then wrap it up. And then holidays. Holidays are special meals. And we're going to talk on one of my controversial things here in a minute. Holidays, you get a special meal. Like Christmas. Christmas is like the biggest meal of the year. Christmas and Thanksgiving. It's kind of unfortunate that they're right next to each other, but like the 2 biggest meals of the year are right there, and you get to actually bring your tray back, and they'll even give you like a bag of extra stuff. And so you don't have to, like, the insane worry about going to chow, you don't have to worry about it, like, for once. Like, you just go one time that day, you bring all your stuff back, and you're done for the day. It is nice. It is nice to not, like, have to freak out about it for once in this, like, for one, twice a year. There will be, like, they'll cook the food really well. It's funny because the holiday food, it's not that it's different food. It's still all the same canned and boiled food that you normally get. They just cook it better. They use the seasoning. They flavor it. The juice is the right amount of juice. So, like, when you're, like, that you drink, like, it's mixed so it's not mostly water. They just cook it better. It's not like they bring in a honey-baked ham just for Christmas. They just cook the stuff they already have better. Yeah, there's, like, some pork strips, ham strips or whatever that you don't normally get, but honestly, most of the stuff on your tray is stuff that you could have gotten the rest of the year. Like, it's piecemeal things that they put together in a good way. It's really sad that they could be making good food, but they don't. It wouldn't prevent the bugs and the rocks and the gushy things from being found in your food, but it's still better. There are other holidays throughout the year, like July 4th and, like the standard big holidays of the year, where you get, like, they'll fry up chicken, and that is honestly more of a mess during the year. That has been known also, like, because they'll, like, serve chicken, and, like, which is a inmate favorite, was never one of mine, because their fried chicken seems to have hair on it. Don't know how that works, but sure. Anyway, there's fried chicken, there's, like, sometimes there's watermelon, which is really interesting because that is always the meal they serve on Juneteenth. Fried chicken and watermelon and juice. I have always found that incredibly inappropriate. The other thing, too, is, like, I didn't know what Juneteenth was until I got locked up and I started learning about it. And the whole concept of Juneteenth really bothers me. And I've probably talked about it before. I'm going to talk about it now. And it becoming a national holiday has not made it bother me any less. Juneteenth is a holiday celebrating not when slavery was ended. It was when the word about slavery ending hit the South. That's it. Slavery still goes on in the South. FYI. The whole prison system, the way it works in the South right now, like, that's all was a continuation of slavery. It was intended. The amendments around it they were designed to keep slaves working in the fields. So, like, Jim Crow era, they would just arrest black people on petty crimes, and then they would get their slaves back. So this idea that, Juneteenth marks the end of slavery, amazing, and then is celebrated in prison with chicken and watermelon, disturbs me a great deal. I am surprised it doesn't disturb, other people more. But I'm weird. I don't know what else to say on that one. Yeah, I'm going to let that sleeping dog lie, because I could go on that tangent all day. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. Stealing food out of the kitchen. A lot of people like kitchen jobs because they want to steal food out of it. One thing, too, to talk about, if you get to work in the kitchen, one thing is you have a lot of access to foods. A lot of times officers will kind of look the other way when you're sneaking some food. The intention, whatever the intentions are behind it, it's kind of supposed to be like a perk of working in the kitchen. The kitchen is one of the worst jobs, bar none. I have seen what happens to their equipment. Like, they're in situations where, rubber boots are melting because it's so insanely hot. It's a gross job. And I don't want to see the innards of any of the food that comes out of that kitchen. I can't imagine if they want extra food. Good on them. They've earned it. And they can also make certain, like I said, the good food is just good because they make it a certain way. And so when the kitchen staff gets to eat, they make it however they want it. Great. They should do that. And they make stuff for the officers too. There's a whole, canteen or whatever for the officers where they can get free food too, where there's actually inmates who do on the order, on the fly cooking up. So they'll make food specifically for the officers in advance, and a whole buffet, and then they'll also be like, hey, do you want a cheeseburger or whatever, off menu stuff using the prison food. And some officers will scoff at it and be like, well, that's prison food. Blech. To them, I say, you can go fuck yourself, quite honestly, because we had to eat it. You chose to be with us in this place, in this awful, awful prison, and you don't want to eat our food. You're that much above us. Don't know what to say about that. You're obviously not trying to make the food better, which you have a little bit of power over being an officer. So those officers who say that, I don't eat it, it's prison food. People know me, I'm a nice guy, but those officers can fuck right off. I know the food's bad. The food's awful. I wouldn't choose to eat it either, but you don't say that to an inmate. And I heard so many officers say that to me. Yeah, also, don't say fuck off to an officer when you're locked up. Unless you're ready to get locked up even more. What else can we learn on food? Oh, yes. For big meals, and like I said, kitchen staff would regularly steal food out of the kitchen. Bring it, take it back. One thing, especially on holidays, biggest thing was taking those ham steaks and bring them back. One story I'm going to leave you with today, because honestly, this food episode could probably be 10 episodes long, but this is a brief intro onto how food works. Ooh, there's another thing I have to touch on first, but since we're talking about ham steaks, the ham steaks are really popular. They're expensive. You could sell them for $2 a pop, which is very expensive. And one kitchen staffer, the way he would bring them home is he was this big, really overweight guy working in the kitchen, And the way he would sneak them is he would just stick them, like lift up his gut, stick it under there, lift it up here. And that's how he would sneak them back. And guys would pay top dollar for each ham steak he brought back. Something to think about. Or not, don't think about it. Another thing about eating in prison that I cannot, on good conscience, let you leave without thinking about. So you got those 25 groups of 25 coming in. They come in, and then they like are sat down at a table. And then basically there's officers all around the dining hall where they're eating. You're not supposed to like choose where you sit. You just fill in the next available seat. Some officers are real hawks and will be like, no, you sit there. No, you sit there. And really, like, it's not like you go down and sit and socialize, though some guys do. You're trying to scarf in as much as you can. And then, like, basically, as soon as the row of tables in front of you leaves, which it's going to be quick, you're supposed to get like 20 minutes to eat. That's rare because the officers just want to finish chow. If every group got 20 minutes to eat, chow would take forever. It would take like 4 hours at least, bare minimum, to run. So they're not letting people get 20 minutes. You're lucky if you're getting like 10 to 15. And when an officer like gives you, like when you sit down and you get 2 bites in your tray and he's like, get up, and you come back at him and is like, hey, I haven't got my 20 minutes. He'll say, well, it's 20 minutes from when you entered the door, which is bull. Like, when you enter the door, you're getting into a line to go get your food, which, yeah, that's a good 10 minutes right there, which is also false. It's not supposed to be 10 minutes from when you get in the door. Every inmate and officer knows that. It's from when you sit down. But I'm not going to argue that. My point is like, even if the food was amazing or you're scarfing it down, for holidays, they will give you a little more time. You're still not going to be able to eat everything on your tray, especially a big chunk of chicken. Like, with a big chunk of chicken on your tray, that's not going down. Though some guys are going to try, and the main thing that they're going to be trying to do is figuring out how they can get that chicken back to their cell. That's kind of eating in prison. It's a mess. I'm tempted to talk about the kosher food program, but that I don't want to talk about it because it gets so contentious, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole. I'm hoping this kind of gives you a good idea. Like, it's the main thing I want to get across to you, if anything, from this episode, is the massive amount of food insecurity that every inmate is dealing with. It is just monstrous, like, how food insecure everyone is. I did not come into prison food insecure. I left it like severely food insecure, and I'm still constantly working on it. It is like, to me, like, to this day, like, free food, I'm like, I gotta get it. Got to. And it's hard. It's hard. It's not. And what's really bad is, like, I don't want, like, it's not healthy for people coming out. It's a really unhealthy way to be. And honestly, I feel like it's a really dangerous way to be, because it brings this mentality of what do I need to do for me first? There's no looking out for anyone else. So, with that said, thank you for listening. There's going to be more on the crash courses coming. Thank you for listening to part 3, for listening or watching. I've been really enjoying these, and stay tuned for the next one. Thanks.